I was a hustler. Probably wasn't called that at that time. Not a word that my mother would like me to associate with, but I just was somebody that wanted to get ahead, get things, and I'd go and work for them.
Mr. Sebastian Wilson is an accomplished leader in tech and transformation. He's a property investor with a portfolio across the country. He's also a serial founder, keynote speaker, model, mentor, ambassador, and of course, he is a brilliant DJ, having toured the world with Sony. He had 20 years in this game.
He failed majority of my GCSEs at school, came home to, I would say, a rollicking, don't use that word anymore, from my parents. Had to go back and reset my GCSEs. So I started DJing for a group called Pure Genius, which I was DJing with DJ Fever. That's my good friend Steve Richards. And we were both DJs for the group. I split off and went to go work for Honky Strut 9 Lives, who were signed to Sony. And they were like, yeah, we've got a tour, Eastern Europe. Do you want to do it? I was like, yeah. And we went tour. We toured Paris, Strasbourg. But it wasn't the tour like you think. There was no private jets. It was in the back of a 3-seater Nova. And so I was the only black guy in my year. So again, I was exposed to other things, different group, mainly Irish, mainly Catholic. And it just opens your eyes more to the environment and the people that you're around of what's actually possible. Some people call it God's path. It could be my path. I truly believe I should be a lot further ahead in my journey from a professional perspective than I am now. So I'm always striving for it. I wasn't as confident and flamboyant as I have been probably over the last 7 to 8 years. And that's just become with me being more comfortable with myself. So the cape was off, the mask was off, it was more me. So I had more energy to be myself.
What's the biggest difference in the shift that you've seen in how you've shown up and the impact that that has had?
Oh, easy.
This is just black excellence right here. That's why it's an absolute pleasure to have my guy, Sebastian Wilson, on. How are you doing, sir?
Super, thank you very much. I'm really good. Really, always, you never know what introduction somebody's going to give you. And I'm just sat there listening to you introduce me. And I'm like, no, that's not me. But I'm doing good on this glum November day. But yeah, I'm doing good. And you, how are you?
I'm doing well. You know what? I think also came on. I'm in that mode of just doing the best I can with what I have, but more importantly, surrounding myself with great, amazing people like yourself to keep on elevating. And that's why I'm looking forward to this as well, because we've also use your words, like listen to that, you play back your bio, some of your bio, that's not all of it, some of your bio, you're like, oh, who's that? How do you introduce yourself when people ask you? Like,
steel sharpens steel, iron sharpens iron, as our good friend David says. And I'm looking at you thinking, how am I here? Talking to you, and I mean, like, you're smashing it out of the park. I see you over at Microsoft. I see you traveling the world, and I'm reversing on you because I'm sure many people don't, because you're very good with your questions and giving people space to breathe. But I see you over there smashing it out of the park, and I see you in Africa, what you're doing over there, and I see your leadership, and your vast network is astounding. And so I am definitely in awe and privileged to be here talking to you. I don't see it as a small thing at all. And then when I see the caliber of the cast and people that you have had on Everyday Leadership, hence why I was like, right.
Same time.
Excellent shops, excellence, man. I'm not letting the side down. The flag is not flanging at all on my appearance at all. It's going up, it's staying up. So to answer your question, how do I introduce myself? It really depends on the environment that I'm in. Obviously, if I'm out, I'm DJing for Tanya, the grand violinist. It's very different. It's, music and DJing and creative and modeling. If I'm in a business environment, it is tech and transformation, of which, I have my own company, my own transformation company, and I also work with ClickSouls as well, another company that I'm a project partner of. Then on the flip side of his property, which we have a property portfolio across the UK, it's a different intro. So I never generally say I am this and this and this and this, and I do this and I do this, and I mentor for the British Trust and I do this and do this. I don't. I'm malleable to the environment that I'm in, and I'm sure that's a skill that all of us have had over our times in business, of basically adapting to our audience. And I suppose I adapt to my audience depending on the environment that I'm in.
Love that. And I guess a natural question then becomes like, how did you get to be the person who steps into all these different worlds and environments. Because I think a lot of times, a lot of us are told, like, have that one thing and stick to that one thing and focus on that one thing. And you've been able to both step into the creative and the business world and explore multiple facets. So I'm always very curious, like when I peel the layers back to a younger version of you when you were, I don't know, 8, 9, what were you like then?
8, 9. Gosh, I've not done this for a while. 8, 9. I was probably car washing the cars around my estate. So I was always hustling. 8, 9, I was working with my father. My father was a plumber. My mother was a midwife. I used to go out with my father on the weekends. It was very simple. I'd go out and work with my father. He'd pay me £5 a day. Daylight robbery. But that
To be fair, those days, that's not bad.
and I'd come home, and my mum would make me save half of it. So I'd get £2.50. But I was always working, and I always wanted to work. Other than that, and playing football on the park all day with the boys, it was very simple. Life was very simple. But I always knew that my parents weren't giving me money. So it was a case of I had to work and find out ways in which I could put myself in a position to earn the money that I wanted to earn. So it was car washes, doing lots of chores around the house, additional to the standard chores that we had to do. I'm from a Jamaican household, so Saturday was clean the house. Barrett's Hammond or whatever was on the music. We had to clean the house as a family. My job, as always, was hoovering. I still like hoovering today. It's very strange, actually. Got 2 hoovers in my house, both Dysons. I actually enjoy hoovering. And I think it takes me back to when I used to try and make the carpet look exactly like you. Old beige shag piles, and you could actually see the lines of when you used to pull the hoover back. I'm trying to think the hoover we had. It was actually a hoover. It was actually one of those yellow hoovers with the bags that used to come up and down. And that was my job. I used to hoover. And I was a hustler. Probably wasn't called that at that time. Not a word that my mother would like me to associate with, but I just was somebody that wanted to get ahead, get things, and I'd go and work for them.
Do you have a clue at that point in time around where that would take you or what you wanted to utilize that skill set for at that young age?
Gosh, no, not at all. Not at all. This is such a cliche story, but I didn't enjoy school. I didn't enjoy junior school. It was only into my 4th year of junior school where an amazing teacher, again, everyone has this story. This is a common thread through a lot of stories. There's that one teacher that inspires you. And for me, it was Miss Gresham. And she was like, Sebastian, I'm not letting you go past my year until you hit these tangible achievements. Whereas the other teachers basically passed me through. And then I went on to a different school. And then I just started to stretch myself. But I didn't see what I had as valuable. I mean, I was probably spending a lot of time just trying to fit in as a youngster. I grew up in Nottingham, beautiful place to grow up, middle of the Midlands. We could, in my early years, it was just a very, very, very simple very core West Indian Jamaican household. So it wasn't really about exploring things out of the box. It was learning a trade. As my father would say, do your lesson. And my mother would say, do your homework. So that was it. It was work. My sisters, I've got 3 older sisters. All of them were very studious and very well educated. And I was the one bringing up the runt. But I was the boy. I was the boy. So I got a bit of a squeeze because my father wanted a boy and I was the youngest. So his view was I was going to take over the business as a young plumber until I realized I didn't really like going into people's houses that were dirty and having to go. And I was like, Dad, this house is dirty. My father would just look at me and say, Sebastian. Quiet. But no, I didn't know. But it was just, I suppose, continual trial and error. Even now, still trial and error. Still trying. Still very, very adventurous.
Wow. I think people were surprised to hear you say it's trial and error because it looks like it was all a plan, the way things came about. In fact, I was supposed to go to one of the elements. If I was to go to the music one, for example, was it listening to your parents and you talked about that, having Barrett's Hammond in the background from when you're young and all that kind of stuff? Was that where that love of music came from and you're like, let me explore that side of things?
As a youngster, I couldn't stand reggae. I think about it.
What?
I was a youngster. I probably didn't like most of the things my parents liked. It wasn't until I got older that I realized the beauty of reggae. I was into hip hop. I was listening to like RSVP, I Need You, and all these old tracks that, yeah. I liked hip hop, London Posse and Rodney P. That was so far away from my mother and father's era and genre. I knew it was something special at the time, but I just didn't enjoy it until I was a lot older, and I was like, oh my gosh, how fortunate I am to have grown up in this. But music came about because, let me think, 94. I probably watched Juice and wanted to be a DJ. Do you remember the film Juice? Was it 94? I think it was later, actually. Tupac was in that. But I wanted to be a DJ. I was really fortunate enough to know somebody. My good friend Bridget knew somebody who was a DJ, and he was really kind enough to let me go to his house every single Saturday, and he'd teach me how to DJ, how to mix, how to cut, how to scratch, how to transform, how to double up with tracks. And Raymond would not let me. Raymond would make sure I only used 2 records: Run DMC, Peter Piper, and I had to work on those for months. I'd walk in, I'd see all of his records, I'd be like, "Yeah, what can I play?" He's like, "No, you're on those." And then until I worked out how to mix those 2, cut those 2, scratch those 2, double up, transform, I couldn't move on to anything else. That took a very, very, very long time. And then Nottingham had quite a good budding music scene. DJ Delight was in a group called 36 Philly, which had some good success. And my other friend, Dr. D, Donald, was in Subsonic 2, and that was a international group which did really well as well back in the 80s. And then there was Kaz Rock as well. So there was a few things. And Nottingham was just like a mecca for partying. Like, people would travel to Notts. You had Pink Coconut in Derby, and then in Nottingham you had so many clubs. We had all dayers. I mean, you go to Nottingham raving, and with a change of clothes, you just go and dance. It was just a phenomenal place to grow up. And I was very fortunate enough to be there. I feel very fortunate to be from Notts, actually.
To be fair, I never really, well, I guess that's in the 80s. I never really associated Nottingham and that scene hand in hand. Or I guess I also have the bias of growing up in London.
Yeah, a lot of Londoners come to Nottingham. We'd have breakdancing conventions. Some of the first b-boy conventions in the country was happening in Nottingham. Some of my guys are in that b-boy video, which was celebrated NG7. Someone's going to correct me on this, but Tommy Thomas, RIP, and a few other guys, really old breakers that were doing things with Crazy Legs and all those guys that would come over, and things would happen in Nottingham. It was a mecca for a lot of things. It was a good city to grow up in. Yes, very fortunate to be there.
Mention your friend literally keep you on those 2 records, and you coming in week in, week out until you actually learn them. And when I think about being young and wanting to do more and being told to just, there's a diligence in that you stuck with it, where I can think of so many people like, "Oh, now I can't bother them, let me go somewhere else." What was it around that made you be like, "No, I'm going to stick out with this to get me to the point where I can get promoted to that next level"?
I believe, like, from a really early age, I knew I was in a very privileged position to be able to have access to Technics 1210s or Technics 1200s that Raymond had. Were like gold dust. Everybody wanted them. Nobody had them. People had Syntronic or Vestax or Technics, other versions of Technics, but Technics decks, and to be able to be on there with a realistic mixer and to have 3 to 4 hours on a Saturday, I knew I was in a sacred space, and I knew, and it was all mine as well, because he'd just go in the kitchen and just be like, "No, do it again." Just be listening to me. "No, do it again. No, do it again. No." I'd be bringing in the fader, bringing it in. "No, do it again." Just be listening to me. I knew really, really, and there was no plan B. There was no one. Okay, well, I think to be that focused that I was at that time, there was nowhere else to go. There was nowhere else. Nobody else offering me this opportunity. There's nobody else going, "Oh, you can come and practice over here." There's no one else that could afford Technics at that stage. And we're talking, 92, 93. So I knew that it was this or nothing, and this was the guy who was going to teach me. So I was like, right. I think I've always been I know I've been always very good at just looking at people and going, I need to learn from this person. Shut up and listen. And I've done it for a long time. From from Raymond in 93 to our big homie Dean Forbes right now, I just listen and I just watch, and it's just osmosis to tech leaders. I just think it's really important to be able to just humble your space, humble your mouth, and just watch and go, oh okay, oh okay, oh okay, and absorb. I've done that for a long time without even realizing I'm doing it. So you asking me that question now. So no, I was like, do this, learn this, and then you can move on. And then I was buying records, and I bring my records over, and then I start to mix my own records. But it was just having that focus of, no, you're not moving on. And I actually do have those 2 copies of records in my office. Run DMC Pied Piper. Of course I have them. Of course I have them.
They're good reminders, but I think what you speak about is that skill set to be able to humble yourself and be like, I can learn from this person. Let me just listen. Let me not let my ego get in the way. It's not something that comes naturally to a lot of people. And I think it's something that I've actually seen come a lot better when people are further ahead in life, not when they're a lot younger. So when I think about that, and I think about even you being with your dad and learning that trait from a young age, it sounds like from those days you're able to just see things and observe things and recognize that there is an importance of just listening, observing, surrounding yourself with the right people who will help to take you to that next stage, rather than thinking that you know better.
So that's a really good point. And I definitely learned this from working with my father, because the difference is, working with my father, my opinion wasn't wanted or wasn't required. I was there, carry tools from the van to the job. I was there to carry lunch from the van to the job. I wasn't there to say, this U-bend goes here, or we need to solder this, or we need to pick up this jackhammer, or we need to get a Phillips screwdriver, or I need to go to wheel bonding. No, that wasn't my job. My job was to sit there and learn. So yes, it definitely came from my father. 100% it came from my father. Again, just the questions, how peel back, how we got there. And also, my household was, I'm one of 6, my 3 older sisters and my father. I was the youngest one. So yes, I was totally spoiled with love. 100% spoiled with love. But I was the last one to be heard because I was the youngest. So again, a level of patience just came through my childhood of just waiting and being patient, because there were a lot more advanced and older voices ahead of me at the time.
Was that when you were on the scene and starting to do what you're doing now and getting the fame and the accolade, and when you were going on tour with Sony and stuff, was there any time where you thought, this could be my full-time 100% gig, nothing else? Or was it always just like, no, this is just an element for who I am? It's not all
I so wanted it to be. I so wanted to be a professional DJ. And I really suppose I could have been, if I had the support and more of the determination within myself. It was just too sporadic for me. I mean, if I look at the greats that came out of Nottingham and still coming out of Nottingham, you got Mr. Jam, my best friend, DJ Fever, who actually taught Mr. Jam how to DJ. You got Alistair Whitehead, amazing house DJ from back in the day. Got amazing jungle DJs from back in the day as well. Got MC Spider, he's still working now. I actually used to work with MC Spider. We used to work on a production line together. My father and my house, not my father, but my house is very simple. You're in education, you're at work. DJ didn't fit into any of those things. It looked too much fun. And rolling in at 3 o'clock in the morning from going to Jungle Mania in Milton Keynes, or going to Millionaires Club in Bristol, or going to Moss Side Community Centre back in the day when people didn't go up to Manchester, or going to, gosh, I forgot where the place was in Digbeth in Birmingham. Anyway, I was outside a lot raving and DJing to different raves and different things. And I wanted it so much, but it was just too sporadic. And I thought, right. And then also I realized there was things that I didn't really want to compromise on my integrity for the scene. So it just wasn't for me. And then really the natural progression. So I started DJing for a group called Pure Genius, of which I was DJing with DJ Fever, that's my good friend Steve Richards. And we were both DJs for the group. And then I split off and went to go work for Hunky Strip 9 Lives, who were signed to Sony. And they were like, yeah, we've got a tour of Eastern Europe. Do you want to do it? I was like, yeah. So off I went, begging my mum for permission. And we went to Paris, Strasbourg and somewhere else. I should ask actually Eddie and Kai. But yeah, we toured. But it wasn't the tour like you think. There was no private jets. It was in the back of a 3-seater Nova. I was in the back seat, two decks next to me, two massive coffin decks for my 1210s. And I toured for that group. And I went and I DJed for that group. But it was phenomenal. It was a great experience. And I wanted it. I wanted it so much. It was just too sporadic. I just couldn't catch the breaks that I needed to catch. But then if I look back now, I probably wasn't putting in the time in that I needed to. But it was all meant to be, because I was meant for that chapter to stop. I mean, I've DJed continuously throughout my whole life, as DJing recently. And I love making people dance. There was nothing better than owning the dance floor. As Ben Watt says, the DJ is not the star, the dance floor is the star. Look, people talk to me about public speaking, and I'm like, there's nothing scarier than playing the wrong track and just having a whole dance floor.
The crowd reaction to that, I know, let you know right then and there. There's no politeness.
Instant. People aren't, when you're giving a talk, if you say the wrong thing, people aren't getting up and walking out. They should be like, oh, that guy's full. But a dance floor, either everyone goes to the toilet, everyone goes to the bar, but they let you know whether you're banging or you're not banging, and that's it. So, having come through those hard knocks, and believe me, I've cleared so many dance floors. Life suddenly gets a lot easier with other things, which is why I walk into so many rooms and people are like, "Oh, you can't present." You go, "It's fine. I think these are the things that just shape us, don't they?"
Yeah, they are. Those experiences. I would say the experience we go through in life, even in regardless of what arena it is, they're ones that shape and mold us and help us in other areas of our life. And you talked about not having time to solely focus on DJing. What was your time focus at that point in time as you were coming up? Was that the property side of things, or was that the career side of things?
No, property was late. Property was a lot later. So my journey's like this, or as Wiley would say, a light green cabbage. I've got more layers than a light green cabbage. I failed majority of my GCSEs at school, came home to, I would say, a rollicking, don't use that word anymore, from my parents. Had to go back and reset my GCSEs. Did that. Then I wanted to buy a car. Looked at my parents and said, "Daddy, you can buy me a car." You still hear him laughing now. He died 4 years ago. Probably still laughing now. But I went to go and work in the factories. I just wanted to hit factories in Nottingham. Nottingham was an amazing place to work for factories and to get really easy labor, not intensive jobs. So I worked in pizza factories. I was a cleaner. I worked for Boots on a production line. I worked for Imperial Tobacco. So I did lots of factories, lots of factory work, saved my money, bought my car, ran around the world, ran around the country, and then realized, okay, I actually can't scale my work. I need to actually do more things. So I was moving away from music. My friends were DJing. My friend Fever was, starting to get good bookings and, all over and doing lots of the student circuit. And some of those things I will kind of do and cover with him. But it was really, I needed to get my education to get myself up and out of Nottingham before I came down to London. But all part of the process. So I was moving away a little bit more away from music. So I was studying more, and then I was working. It wasn't until I came down to university, did my degree in computing in business, managed to get a placement year with Reuters through meeting the right guy in the right pub at the right time on Three Kings and Kensington High Street. I hope you're all right, Yusuf. And he got me in for my placement year. And then I started to work with these guys, realized that being a database administrator, an Oracle database administrator, was actually all right. It's quite lucrative. I then started to work. Left Nottingham then 5 or 6 years before. And it was then when I was starting to actually start to earn some money. And somebody tapped me on my shoulder and says, "What are you doing with your money?" And I was like, "Thursday night at the city. Let's go party." And I was given a very good lesson in, okay, well, this isn't going to last forever. I think you should put some money in some assets. And that's when I started to buy property. Just on a whim, just being surrounded by the right people. I was in the right place at the right time. Very, very, very fortunate.
So I have to ask, because there's a recurring coincidence, but it can't be a coincidence around you being around people, right place, right time, right people. Someone tapping your shoulder to be like, what are you doing with your money, and asking that question, or you meet the person at the pub that got you into right of that. What is it about you that either attracts people to you, or what type of conversation is it that you're having that opens people up? They'll be like, it's something around you where it's like, let me invest in you, let me pull
Yeah,
you into something.
I totally agree, and it's still happening, and it's happening a lot, and it's not something that I really doubled down on to give serious thought to. But as we track back, I have been. I think a lot of people look at me, and have always looked at me, and have seen more potential in me than I have actually seen in myself, and have said, "You should be further on. I'm going to help you." Whether I've actually asked for it or not is something totally different. But they've seen it and they've actioned on it, and they've actioned on it for my benefit. And I sometimes sit there and think, gosh, why did you mean to that? And it's happened. I'm very, very aware of the power of network, and I'm very, very aware of the power of being in certain rooms with certain people. And I like being in bigger rooms. I like being the smallest voice in certain rooms. And I said I'm very good at being in those rooms and listening because people are ahead of me. I don't think I know, and I can visualize this. I remember seeing a black guy in it must be 88, 87 or 91, into around that time. 80s, early 90s, as a black guy in a drop top Alpina 3 Series, burgundy, gorgeous. And it was just that moment of, how did he get that? And why haven't we got that? And then I was really fortunate that my parents put me in a school outside of the area. So then again, exposed to people that I was the only black guy in my year. And it was myself and my good friend who got expelled. But that's myself. And then there was two. I'm not going to say his name. And there were two, a girl called Amanda. And so I was the only black guy in my year. So again, I was exposed to other things, different groups, mainly Irish, mainly Catholic. And it just opens your eyes more to the environment and the people that you were around, of what's actually possible. But I do believe there's been a lot of people. I mean, some people call it God's path. It could be my path. I truly believe I should be a lot further ahead in my journey from a professional perspective than I am now. So I'm always striving for it. So I think I'm always looking ahead and upwards. My trajectory is always upwards. And I think that's what you attract, what you think, and you think what you attract, and they all work on your actions. And so I believe when I've reached out and I've spoken to you, and I've spoken to David, and I've spoken to Dean, and I've spoken to Lee, and I've spoken to Sean, I've spoken to lots of pioneers, I've spoken to Julie Carney's, partners, and lots of different people who are really like, why aren't you here? You should have been here ages ago. Oh. And you think, shit, there's people that see more in me than I see in myself at times. But I believe I've now kind of caught up with that vision. But yeah, I've had a lot of people help me. I could never be the person that says, I got here on my own. Not at all. I had a lot of ladders on the way, and I'm so grateful to those people that keep the ladders out, there for my counsel, and promote me when I'm not in the room, sponsor me, I suppose, when I'm not in the room. And I'm very good at doing that for others too.
Well, you definitely are. And would you say now that view of you seeing yourself the way that people see you is front and center for you, or is there still some element of that where there are people who see you and believe in you, things that you're capable of, and you're still like, yeah, I'm not sure?
No, I don't want to believe any hype. I've just got to progress. If I start to get focused on what other people think of me, it's a downfall, isn't it? Especially with the world that we're in, with socials and perceptions and likes and stuff. I just know I've got to get up and just do more than I did yesterday. A lot more than yesterday. I actually really like being proud of myself. I'm my own biggest cheerleader. So while, yes, the accolades and the responsibilities and the speeches and the places and rooms that I'm in are great, there's nothing better than me just being sat down and going, shit, I did that. I actually really did that. I really did that. And then when I get to forums like this and you say, how did you get here? Yeah, tons of help. But no one's done it for me. They've gone, a lot of people have just tested me, actually. They've gone, well, I'll open the door a little bit and then you walk through. But they've not opened the door for me. They've jarred it and gone, oh, you should speak to this person. You speak to that person. And then you get to here and you start to talk about 20 years and you're like, whoa, was I actively doing this for 20 years? I suppose I have been. I don't actively think about it, but I have been with help from other people. It's pretty beautiful. Yeah, I suppose I'm going to pat myself on the back. You should. You should. Yeah. We all should. We all should.
When I think about some of the,
I don't get to speak. Listen, I know you don't have weak people on your podcast. I know you don't. So I know the filter is. I know the bar's high. I know. I'm in clean air up here. Smells good up here.
So you're in an atmosphere right now. Yeah, it's just.
I'm in your atmosphere. This is your podcast.
No, but when I think about even some of the projects and transformations that you have led, which have been quite big, when you work in transformation projects, it requires what's the right word to use? The level of communication that you need to have to be able to hold multiple strands of things in your brain, communicate with multiple levels, all the way from top all the way to bottom, and as well as the pressure that comes with it is a lot. I've been in some of those roles and led turnaround projects. I know what that is like and how that can feel. How have you navigated that throughout your career? And I guess what are some of the other tips and stories that you can even lean into and share with other people who are thinking about, how do I learn to communicate better? How do I learn to speak to senior leaders better? How do I learn to bring people into my vision and lead them forward like you've done?
Yeah. Really good question. I mean, it doesn't really matter whatever room I'm in, everything comes back to my foundations. My father taught me hard work, concentration, and due diligence. And his lines were very simple: learn your lesson. My mother taught me more community, heart, love, warmth. My house was always an abundance of people coming around, whether it's my mother's friends, my sister's friends. And I'm telling you, those two different traits from my parents have led me throughout my whole life. So I then come and land at UBS, HSBC, JP Morgan, Cazenove, Colt. I know how to work. I know how to compartmentalize different parts of the project to deal with different people at different times. It's my father's side. I know how to deliver. I know what good looks like. My mother's side, I know how to talk to people. My mother was here right now, or she'd got the train from Nottingham down to London. She'd get the train back. She'd have 3 phone numbers. Oh, I met this person on the train. We're going to go for coffee. I met this person here. We're going to go do this. Just my mother. I was fortunate enough, again, to just watch how my mother talked to people. My mother was a senior midwife at Nottingham City Hospital. And she had to deal with consultants, doctors, and the trust, and everything in between that. And I realized, my parents were always telling me my father was an active member of the Black Panther Party. And Michael X supposed to come to our house. So he was always pushing us and our agenda forward. And my mother was always there mirroring that with heart and love. So by the time these things come together and I start to work in the city, or I start to work in environments that are a little bit more alien to me, all I can be is me. The work pushed me through. My personality pushed me even further. Not the work, it's my personality. I was very fortunate enough, and I still have the skill that I can go and talk to most people. Ethnicity, gender, sexuality, whatever. I'm able to build bridges, and I should have really possibly been in sales, because I can have a conversation with somebody for 4 to 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And I can remember some single point of that conversation. So when I go back, I go, oh, and do you remember this? And I'm able to pick up and continue conversations with people. Now, at a very young age, earlier on in my career, best part of 20, 25 years ago, things were going wrong when I was at UBS, and my line manager at the time was like, Sebastian, you go and tell the guys out there that, batch is not, year-end batch is not working, or this is not working, or that's not working. And so I would. And then I just started to end up doing it more and more. And I just realized I had the power to, one, speak technical to the coders, to the DBAs, to the infrastructure server team, to the SAM team. But then I was also able to speak to project managers, program managers, directors, steering committees. And that's like I started to hone my superpower of being able to float between these two worlds, which I think is still a superpower for many people. A lot of technical people are very technical and can continually speak technical. And I'm very much, I suppose, the sandwich in the middle that can reverberate those two different forums with ease. And it gave me and it gave them confidence to have me around. And that's definitely something that's propelled me, along with being able to work very hard and deliver at a very high level.
But I think back to you saying that, back to your DJ career as well, those are two worlds where it's around people. And you're consistently surrounded by people, and you need to tap into what those audiences need. Now, I might be doing that through music, but even before you get there, you're still liaising with various people from different backgrounds to be able to understand. So what is the crowd looking for? What is like, so you can even build your set in a way that you're asking the right questions that will help you in the future. I think very much so in the corporate one, to what you're saying right now, is a very, very similar thing as well. It's like, okay, it's people. Looking at what your mum did and I'm getting to know people, you're bringing those same skills into that environment, but it just looks different, but it's still the same core skills that you're talking about. But for me, when I hear you and I think about that, the anchor is authenticity. Like, you have managed to stay true to who you are, and your identity is like intact, is not changing whatever environment you kind of find yourself in, which again it's not easy to do. We can easily find ourselves in environments like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. All right, let me try and be like this person, be like that person. You can easily always go back to like, no, this is what my mom taught me, this is what my dad taught me, this is what I've been anchored in. Let me stay in there, and that will get me through wherever I find myself.
I mean, there's definitely things that I know now that I wish I'd have done a lot earlier in my career. In relation to staying true to myself, I definitely wore a different persona in the office. I wasn't as confident and flamboyant as I have been probably over the last 7 to 8 years. And that's just become with me being more comfortable with myself. I suppose I was following the route of conforming a lot more than I needed to. And I believe I was absorbing the pressure of the office, especially when I was at Cadno, where you'd have to put your jacket on just to go to the toilet because they were the people and that's what they did there. And I would do that. And that makes me quite sad, actually. But it was just where I was at the time. And it was just, again, that I wouldn't say the need to fit in. It was just probably not the want to stand out. But as I gained more in confidence and started to value the assets that I have and realized that they are my superpower, parts of my personality, my humor, more and more of me came out to the point. I mean, I was always there. I was just more suppressing it. And it would come out after work. So I can't really hold up my hand and say, hey, I've been this way for 20 years. No, I've not at all. I've really had to, again, humble myself, listen, and do a lot of navigating till I get to this point. But I suppose my last 5 roles have just been so me. My last 5 to 6, 7 years, especially HTBC Colts, UBS, have been me. But my earlier career, definitely, I was learning. I was young.
If you compare both of them then, between the early career and the last 5 to 7 years where you talk about you fully stepping into you, what's the biggest difference in the shift that you've seen in how you've shown up and the impact that has had?
Oh, easy. It's, my gosh, it's so tiring not being yourself. So I just have more energy to work. I'd have more energy to be me. And it was better and it was more fun. And I wasn't wearing something. I wasn't trying to be somebody else. So the cape was off, the mask was off. It was more me. So I had more energy to be myself. It's draining being somebody else, or it's draining suppressing who you are for other people. And I hope many people don't. I mean, it was the city at the time. It was, I look at where I was, and I look at some of the brothers and the sisters in the city that I would look to for guidance, and some of them were there to help, and some of them were really pulling the ladder up and saying, you know what, I'm the only one in this space. But but not maybe, I was definitely wrong looking only to us for guidance, thinking that there was a massive unity. As I've learned, and I've said this many a time, skin folk isn't always kinfolk. I've had more help from people that don't like us than people that do. But the energy that I had for my job, productivity level went through the roof, bigger projects, more money, more success, and being able to deliver things more on my own merits. Easy. I've always wanted, wherever I work, and I suppose this is why I still love DJing. When you're the DJ and you deliver the killer set and the crowd are just at you, just smashing it, shouting your name, it's you. Whereas when you work for a big company and you deliver a project with a group, you're all taking, yes, we delivered that. What a great Manco, the Steerco. Yeah, we all did this. Isn't great. We all pat ourselves on the back. But when this is why my world navigates between the two, whether it's the modeling or the acting or the DJing. There's nothing better than actually doing something for yourself and being rewarded for it on your own terms, which is why I have so much respect for DJs, which is why I have a lot of respect for, really high top level leaders, because they are leading from the front. And everybody wins with their direct guidance. So, yeah, I do like that.
Why acting and modeling? Like, where did that piece come from?
Total chance. Total chance. So I was in the opening ceremony of the London 2012 Games. It's on the tube on the way to. I was working at ICAP at that time, and there was a small advert which just said, "Have you got rhythm?" I was like, "What?" Small advert in the Evening Standard. Have you got rhythm? Come to this. So I went to the rehearsal, and it was over in East London, where the stadium is now. Went for one screening, come back next week. Okay, went for two, went for three, went for four. Ended up being like 8 to 9 screenings, different showcases and trials. And then one day they just pull me aside and they just says, "We've got an idea for a role for you." Oh, okay, cool. One door went through another door. This is all the same building, but went through different doors. And didn't really. I'm stood in front of Danny Boyle. Danny's like, "Yeah, we've been watching you. We've got this role for the evidence ceremony. We'd like you to play the father." I'm like, "Okay, we can't tell you about it, but we'd like to do this." And then I met the rest of the cast, and then that was a series of basically the best part of a year of work for the 50 seconds of the opening ceremony of the Olympics. Brilliant. I was sat there on set one day, myself and my good friend Carly. I'm still friends with quite a few of the cast. I goes, "Danny, should I act?" He looked at me, "Sebastian, I don't want to tell you to act, because if you flop it, you'll blame me." And again, just being brave about asking the question, do you see something in me that I don't see in myself? It's a question I think a lot of people should ask a lot of other people. And he was like, "Sebastian, I can't tell you to act, but you're great for this role. But I'll tell you one thing, after you finish this, you should get yourself an agent, because there might be some work." I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I did. Not done any major acting things, just all little small bit parts, but the majority of it's basically been modeling and commercials and stuff. So I'm signed to a few agencies. If time commitments work, I go and do modeling shoots, and I actually really enjoy it. I like, again, going off into a totally different arena, wardrobe, photographer, different locations, just fun. It's just fun meeting different models. It's just fun. I like it. I like the variety of the day. So, a little bit of music, majority 90% business. I would say 90% business and 60% of that property, and then there's the tech. And then there's this, you need to go here, you need to be on site here, you need to speak to this person, and then you're going to go to there and be told what to do and get paid for it and have fun with it. So I've been doing modeling for a number of years, a lot more modeling than acting. But yeah, it's good fun. I like it.
Honestly, I'm like, it's there's something around the difference of the worlds that you're operating in that I find fascinating, but I also found really good, because I think there are times when we can define people in one thing, and it's like, okay, a business person does this. They look like this, they sound like this, they operate, especially in the world that you're doing transformation. Like there's a cliche stereotype of those particular individuals. But then you're like, nah, I'm just gonna mash up that stereotype and showcase wide range, from the music to the acting to the modeling and all of that, which for me is such a powerful way of, when you talk about living a full life, you're like, this is for me, is a very good example of what that looks like. It's a very good representation of what that actually looks like.
Yeah, I think I was possibly too quick to put myself in my own box, and that box wasn't defined by me; it was defined by somebody else. And it was, you should be doing this, and you should be in this place only. And to get ahead, you have to stay in this place for a number of years. But I am not fully fulfilled just DJing. I am not fully fulfilled doing DJing and doing the management of DJs or the business side of DJs or running nights. That wasn't enough for me. I'm not fully fulfilled working at, one of the top tier largest banks in the world and being a transformation manager or running AI ops or proof of concepts or working for financial crime regulatory. I need more, as well as obviously family and being a father. I need more for me, for my soul, to bring the best out of me. So I think the generation now have totally got it right in how they spread themselves and how they work, and the microeconomies and how they can do one thing and do another. I think it's more what I've been doing is probably quite common within the working sphere now. But if I pull it back, there was never enough of one thing which made me totally happy. I needed quite a few other things to make me happy. And those things are the different spheres and different avenues and arrays that you talk about today. And there's still so much more. I mean, all of those I can elevate. I could, I still want to headline Ibiza. I still want to do that. Do I want to do a catwalk show? Yeah, maybe. Do I want to run an even larger transformation project again for another bank? Yeah, I do. But not as a transformation manager, probably more on the C-suite side. So I've got aspirations to do more, definitely. I've seen what it is. I know I can do it.
You are showcasing that if anyone can do it, it's you. So I have absolutely no doubt that's going to happen for sure. And you talked about you got into property when someone kind of tapped you in the shoulder and had a conversation with you many years ago. How did that then lead into, I guess, being able to build out the portfolio that you've done and do that well? Because property is hard. Bro, I say property is hard.
Yeah,
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but property is hard based on the little that I have done in investing in property. But you can speak more and more on it.
Yeah. So yes, tapped on the shoulder. What are you doing with your money? Okay, let's go buy a house. Government where everything was 95% loan to value at that stage. So, houses were relatively very, very cheap. And so I bought one, and then I bought another one, and then I bought another one, and I kept going. And then I was looking more and more at, and I didn't take it seriously at all. I bought them. I remember I was on this road with the estate agent, and he looked at me, he said, Sebastian, if I was you, I'd just sell these houses. They're not going anywhere. This area's not going anywhere. And I looked at him and I was like, yeah, maybe I should, but maybe not today. Fast forward 15 years later, those relatively small 60, 75,000 pound houses are 160,000 pounds.
Whoa.
And then tenants are in them, remortgaged, revalued, property's obviously gone up. And I just kept doing that within the areas that we decided to purchase in. Taught myself a lot about, regulation, hired a team to help us manage and obviously grow our portfolio. Property is full-time. It really is full-time. Unless you give it out. I mean, the narrative and the education side of property has gone absolutely through the roof since COVID. And there's, I suppose, at times, there's a lot of different things that I should be doing. I'm probably not self-managing, but I really enjoy part of that. I actually really enjoy working with tradesmen. I think it possibly brings me quite close back to my childhood of working with my father and working with the electrician and the sparking, the chipping, the roofer. And again, just speaking to them in their language because they are changing. So I just really, I really enjoy touching things that I own. It's very strange. I like, that's our house and I can touch that house. Yeah, no, I, yeah, I enjoy property.
When you say about you didn't take it too seriously, let's move it back a bit. There have been times I've had conversations with people around investments and different. Where's your money at? What are you doing with it? And they will have had a similar response to you, like that you do. Like, I'm just enjoying life, basically, and they're not willing to step into that next investment stage. What was it around that conversation, that initial one that you had, that made you buy that first property? And then, even though you weren't taking it seriously, you still invested a number of them as well because you had your eyes open for whatever reason.
I did, yes. Again, it's just the rooms that you put yourself in. I was the youngest of a group of fairly middle-aged to very old gentlemen, and their conversation every day at lunch was property. I just couldn't really follow that conversation until I had property. And they were talking about, oh, my tenant's this and doing this, and bought this house on a credit card, and now I've refinanced and done this. And I was like, oh gosh, these guys were the IT contractors doing very, very well, and they were doing this too. And it just seemed like I was missing out on something. And I'm looking at these people thinking, if they can do it, I can do it. And then they were guiding me, going, oh, Sebastian, you should do it. You should do it. So it was right place, right room, right time, right conversations to be in, right table to be sat at. But then when I started to take it seriously, which was about 2024, 7-8 years ago, it was then I was starting to think, right, okay, I've been in the city for 15, 20 years. What's next? You've just done a really hard project. You've worked yourself to the bone, 12, 15, 18 hours a day, leaving Canary Wharf at 9 o'clock, 10 p.m. Do you want to keep doing this? You're tired. You want to be at home more. You want to give more to other things in your life. I want to see my kids more. I want to be at home more with the family. The reward for doing something good in this environment is just doing it again. So I was like, right, okay, I need to start to look at different revenue streams, which is going to supplement me to actually live. I think one of the telling things was I just didn't take enough holiday off that I should. I should have taken so much more holiday off when I was contracting, but I was so scarcity mindset of, if I take 3 weeks off, I might not renew my contract, and what do the optics look like? And no one else is taking time off, and just work, graft, work, get the money in, because you never know. And now I'm just like, oh, such a fool. I wish I'd have known that you should have. I mean, I worked with this guy, Richard, and he took every August off, the whole of August, and it's still one of my aims. I nearly got there this year. I took 3 weeks off this year, and it's one of my aims. He's like, I'm not working for August. And he was doing this like 10 years ago, and I was like, whoa. And he was a contractor, but he was just smart enough to put his family before his work. I was not doing that the way I should have been doing it. So it was, how can I build on something that I already know without reinventing the wheel, without killing myself, which would have been, I could have really pushed hard to get back in the DJ circuit, but that's not conducive to the life I was living with children, with kids, and rolling in at 3 o'clock and then dragging myself to Canary Wharf for 7 o'clock for the 8 o'clock meeting. It just doesn't work. I couldn't perform at the same level. So music wasn't the way. Property was relatively easy. I was surrounded by the same people, wanted an additional revenue stream to come in to supplement me. And I would start to think ahead as well. My roles were changing. A lot of things were being offshored out to India. DBA roles, which I was doing, were gone. And project manager roles were coming in. And there was a lot of fear of, you need to continue to upskill. Probably the same fear which is happening now with chat and AI. And having seen that and different iterations of how technology is going to take over the world, that fear is no longer there that it used to be. However, at that time, having lived through it the first time, it was right. I really need to ensure that I'm looking after myself. And my father actually was a property investor. He only bought one additional property, but again, just his entrepreneurial spirit of, going out and doing it for yourself, definitely transcended, and I absorbed it.
I want to, I'm curious, what would you say now if someone's thinking about getting into the property game now, based on your experience, the economy, how things are moving? Would you still advise it?
Totally. If you pan out from the single investor to the large corporate investor, all that's been happening over the last 2 to 3 years is large venture capital firms buying roads, houses, cities. There's clearly something in property which the others see. People will always need somewhere to live. We're not building as many houses as we need to. There is a total need for good, affordable, professional accommodation. There's money to be made in property, which is why there's so many people there. The first thing I would tell people to do would just be spend a lot more time on educating yourself and just be really brave and going. I mean, again, we go back to education, we go to YouTube, we go to Instagram, we go to Twitter. There's so much more information out there. There's so many more clubs. There's so many more people you can tap into. There's so many more people you can reach out to and go, how did you do that? People may charge you, they may not charge you for that information. But I would definitely believe it's a space where, I mean, not just property, but anything, you can take it wherever you want to and go and learn from it. So yeah, go for it. Totally go for it. But if it doesn't work for you, then do something else. And this is life. I was talking to somebody recently, and it's, and you will know this because you're in the States a lot. Those guys change their careers so often.
Yes.
And it's considered normal, from tax advisor to teacher to mechanic to electrician, back to state governor. And they come to the table like I'm coming to this conversation with, oh, Sebastian, you have an array of skills in these different areas and sectors. You're amazing. But then I look across at the counterparts across the pond, and it's like, it's pretty normal to them to have done all these different things. I just think that we hold ourselves back from wanted to explore more. Worst thing happens is it goes wrong, right?
If it goes wrong, you have the transferable skills to bounce to something else, but you've also learned from even stepping out and having no regrets. And I think a lot of times that's how the conditioning around us will say we should stay in one lane, we should do one thing. But the inner voice in us tells us, now we're meant for more than that. We can do more than that. And it's being able to listen to that inner voice over the voice of the external. That's where the battle comes from. And unfortunately, a lot of people do the external rather than internal.
I think at times there's more of well, again, this is where it's so important to surround yourself with people that amplify a smaller voice and not the louder voice. Because the stay safe voice is all around us. And it's all around you. Stay safe, stay comfortable, stay in your lane, stay in your box. Be really good at this, but don't stretch yourself. That voice is very much all around you. Or the fear of stepping out of that box and you're going to lose everything that you have, as opposed to, no, your box can get bigger and bigger and bigger until you actually don't even have a box. If we look at the most successful people, they don't put themselves in boxes, and I'm sure that the talk that they have internally to themselves, they're not putting themselves in boxes. So why should you? But again, this is why it's so important to have people around you or influencers around you that are just smashing it out of the park, whether it's football, whether it's gymnastics, whether it's hockey, whether it's tennis, whether it's tech, whether it's fashion DJing. I've got a lot of people around me that I regularly talk to, and they're just smashing it out of the park, and it just fuels you. And it's not even, if not them, then why not me? It's, oh, cool. I like being in that conversation because I like saying what I've done. I like bringing my 2 pence to the table. It's cool. It's good. Why should last year look like today? You want to be doing more today than you were last year, or more, or well, doing better in whatever barometer in which you have for yourself. And if you're not doing more, because it might be not wrong barometer, it might be doing less. It might be that you've got to the stage where you can give these things out, so you can draw more time. It's all about the barometer you have. More isn't actually necessarily always successful. I should actually put that out. Less on the barometer you want is normally yes.
How do you measure success? What does that look like for you?
Not got there yet. I know I'm very privileged. I know I've worked very hard. I believe success, when I get to that place, is doing what I want, when I want, who I want, on my own. It's all my own terms. It's all my own terms. Where there's rubbish here in London, should go somewhere in a sunnier climate and just take my family as and when I want, and continue to do that, but not just once. What does Lethal V say? You know, skeet gang. What does he say? If you can't buy it 4 times, you shouldn't do it. I love it. Again, though, no, different arenas, different people smashing out of the park. You know, you got Crept and Conan and Urban Financer and Nyla's Baby, how they smashed out of the park. Just looking at success, looking at people that are doing really well. You know, you look at Getz, I went to go see Getz only a couple of weeks ago at the Poetry Night at the South Bank Centre with Tanya. I just have so many examples of people that are doing really important, forward-thinking things around me. And it just spurs you on. It's not even like being about being left behind. It just spurs you on.
So we're having that. I guess it's also about seeing it, seeing an example in front of you, and something that I love about your character, which is you can see people who are potentially ahead of you, and it's not a case of, oh, let me hate or let me compare myself. It's very much like, no, that inspires me and it pulls me forward in a positive way. And not everyone has that way of thinking and looking at things. There are times where you easily get into that comparison. Oh yeah, but this person does this and I can't do that. And that whole negative thinking, stinking thinking keeps you stuck, as opposed to, it's good to have people ahead of me, and it just makes me know that it is possible and I can spend some time with them and they can pull me forward and I keep on elevating and keep on growing. But at the same time, as they're doing what they're doing, I'm rooting for them. And that's something that you do really well.
Someone I know very well, he says he's a total thief. He's a thief. He's a thief of not trying to reinvent the wheel when people have done things ahead of you. So just be humble with it and just go, oh, that person's doing that and it's actually better than the way I've done it. Let me get close to that person. Let me see if I can learn that lesson. Let me see if I can learn an example. And then how can I incorporate that into my daily life and routine? And is that going to propel me forward? It all goes back to the DJing with DJ Delight in Lenton Flats of just being humble and listening and looking at somebody who's ahead of you and just staying hungry. I'm just massively hungry. So hungry. I'm so hungry for more on the levels that I've set for myself. And so if I can shortcut that and shortcut those goals and shortcut that route by adapting and working with those or working with the best, I'm out there. I'm happy to be like, yo, I like what you did there and this. And I reach out to people on Instagram all the time. No problem. All they can do is not respond, right? That might save me 6 months of going down a road I don't need to go down with just advice. The only thing we don't get back, right? It's time. So let's see where we can save time.
I got 2 questions as we're going to come to the end of this. Number 1, what's the biggest mindset shift that you have made over not just your career actually, what you've made in your life that has helped to move you in the right way?
Belief. It's belief in myself. And that's very difficult and has been at times very difficult in this environment. It's better in London than it has been, I suppose, when I was in Nottingham, because there's more examples of success, especially for young black males, success on our level, not our terms. But my mindset shift has had to be that I can be as successful, if not more successful than anybody else, without comparing myself. So I can be more successful than I was yesterday. So it's just belief in myself. And that then translates into confidence in the way in which I stand, in the way in which I talk, in the way in which I believe I have something to offer to the conversation, into the rooms that I want to be in and actually contribute and not be a wallflower. It all starts to ripple through. But it all starts with belief. And that's a mindset shift that you can do it. And that propels my actions and has propelled my actions to go forward.
Yeah. And how do you define leadership?
So leadership for me at the moment, within an environment such as the big corporates, I think leadership, and I believe this is what a lot of people, some do, some don't do, is identifying top talent and moving out of the way and enabling that top talent and basically batting for that top talent to succeed and to get to their full potential. That's in a certain environment. And that's through sponsorship, mentorship, and championing that person when no one else is looking. That's one side of leadership. Other side of leadership is having the belief in yourself that the goal and trajectory of the project or program or wherever you want to get to, you can do it. And you are bringing the masses along with you on that journey. And you have to sometimes, in the face of no belief, no confirmation, be resolute in your decision of the direction that you're going in. And sometimes be able to explain why, but just really own that decision. So a few different forms of leadership.
I think it represents I would say, the fluidity of what that definition means as well. Because to your point you made earlier on, depending on what environment you're in, you might need different things, but the true essence still remains the same. And actually, I can hear that in both of the ways that you defined it. And as we wrap this up, there's something around having people who are very honest, who are genuine, who are humble, and they're humble in such a way where it's not a let me dim my light kind of humility. It's more like, no, I've done a lot and I'm in a lot and I know a lot of people as well. But you're humble in the way that you approach things. You're humble in the way that you approach people. And that's one of the things that resonate me with the first times we actually met. And I just wanted to just call that out because there's something that's powerful around when you talk about representation and so many people that need to know what it looks like when people just move in silence sometimes. But don't get it twisted and think that silence is like they do nothing. They're doing things, but moving in silence with integrity, moving in silence in purpose. And I know, like, if this was 2 years ago and I was like, Sebastian, come on the podcast, you're like, yeah, nah, I'm good. Like, I'm just I'm just behind the scenes. I don't want to do that. But now for me, it's really, really important to have like role models like you, like out and people seeing that and being able to navigate what you've done and see what you've done, but also love hearing of that. I'm not done yet. There's so much more I want to do. There's so much more I want to give out into the world, which you're already doing anyway. And it's a powerful statement. And I really, really appreciate you just coming on and just doing you and talking about your journey. It's been powerful.
Thank you, Supe. I do know. I'm an approachable person, but I've seen how much further it helps other people to show what we can do, whichever background or ethnicity, doesn't really matter. And it's so important to just pull the ladder down because I want to help as many as I can within reason. And I've seen examples where that's done to an amazing level. And I've seen examples where we always can do a little bit more. And I want to be part of the group that did more. I mean, I'm not old, but I think more about legacy than I do. And I love when I did this work with a charity called Entrepreneurs, and when I spoke to the young guys at 18, and they were just like, whoa. And some of them I'm still mentoring now. And it's lovely when you go back to environments that you've helped people and they remember you and they remember what you've done to them, and or people pull you up and say, do you remember my career when you said this? And you're like, shit, I can't remember. And I like that. I like that. You know, I was listening to Trevor Nelson at the Black Business Show a couple of weeks back, and it's really important for him to go and find the interns, that find the new recruits, and he sits down and he speaks to them. It's something that I've basically been doing, and that's one of my sweet spots for people that are going into the city. I just believe that 20 to 25, really early into the city, and just trying to find your space. They're the people that I really want to actually help to show them that you can get to the lofty heights of C-suite, group C-suite, but you don't have to sell yourself to do it. So, yeah, I am very humble because I've been humbled, and there's no need to wear your ego on your sleeve when it does more to help people, really, because it just puts a barrier up, which is not what I'm about.
Well, this is Everyday Leadership. This is Sebastian Wilson. We will see you all next time.